Shalom, Israel. This is Brother Benaiah,
Brother Ananias.
right? And we're coming back to you with another Feast of Dedication / Apocrypha proof, right? So last time in part one, right, we were proving that the Apocrypha is an actual uh, book that is supposed to be in what you call they call it the canon Bible, right? The 66 books. But the Apocrypha is actually supposed to be in there. These are the 14 missing books that they took out of the Bible in the 1800s. Now we're bringing it back to life, showing our people that who we are according to the Bible, right? And we God's chosen people, and we're supposed to be keeping the commandments. And we're showing our people that Christ actually kept the Feast of Dedication. That's in John chapter 10 and verse 22. Give me 1 second. That's in John chapter 10 and verse 22. Right? Can you get that for me real quick, brother? Just get a little recap. We're gonna give a little recap and then we're gonna hop right into it. Right?
The book of John, chapter 10, verse 22. And it reads, And it was at Jerusalem, the feast of dedication, and it was winter. And Jesus walked in the temple in Solomon's porch.
So Christ himself celebrated the Feast of Dedication. But like we went over in the last video, you won't find this information in what they call the 66 books or the Bible, right? But we understand the Apocrypha, that's just a word they made up. It means missing books, but it was actually a part of the Bible in the 1611 King James Version, right? And it's also known that the Apocrypha was in the Greek Septuagint, which is more than likely what Christ read himself. So the only way he will understand on how to celebrate the Feast of Dedication is through the Apocrypha and the history of how the Feast of Dedication came to be about. Right. But first, I'm going to share my screen and we're going to get a page out of From Babylon to Timbuktu. And let me know. Can you see my screen, brother?
Nah, it ain't on there yet.
All right. Kind of lagging behind. Can you see that yet?
No, sir.
All right. So this is what we're going to do. Oh, okay. I didn't even put it on there. Ain't that boss? Can you see that?
It's loading.
Okay.
There we go.
All right. So this is From Babylon to Timbuktu. This is a historical book written by Rudolph R. Windsor. Sometimes, now we understand we don't need any other Bible to prove that the Bible is a true book, but these books help uplift the souls of our people, help them see the history, because the Bible is a history book. So there are different historians who have kept record of these different things, these different wars and battles and all different types of things of that nature. All right, so let's get that in page 83 in From Babylon to Timbuktu.
All right. It's the book, Babylon to Timbuktu, page 83. In the year 331, that Alexander the Great defeated the Persian emperor Darius at the Battle of Gargamel, incorrectly called Arbela, a new master emerged on the world stage and transformed the history and culture of 3 continents.
So we read that in First Maccabees chapter 1. We went over that in the last video. So Alexander the Great, right? He took over basically the entire world. King Darius, he was the Persian emperor, right? But he defeated him and he took over the reign of basically ruling the world, right? Keep reading.
However, Alexander died in the prime of his life at the age of 32 because of debauchery and intoxication.
Debauchery, that's going into homosexuality. meaning he was sinning against the laws of God, right? He was an actual homosexual, and they say he died of intoxication. It's rumors that he died of either AIDS or syphilis, right? Keep reading.
Before the death of Alexander, his desire was to establish a Eurasian state. His scheme was to amalgamate the Greeks with the Asians. This was implemented by the widespread marriage of his troops with the colored women of the East.
Now that's
Most of
something heavy, but keep reading.
uh, most of his troops remained in subjugated countries and became absorbed into the native population. After the death of Alexander, his vast empire was divided amongst his generals. Ptolemy received Egypt and Seculus received Asia. As time elapsed, there was constant war between these two dynasties. By the year 198 BC, the descendants of General Secules,
Seleucus.
Seleucus, had their capital in Syria, just north of Palestine. In this same year, the Seleucid dynasty in Syria compelled Egypt to give up Palestine, the land of the Jews. The king of Syria at this time was Antiochus III.
And we read about Antiochus in Maccabees chapter 1, right? This is basically a recap of what we read in chapter 1, showing that Alexander the freak, his kingdom was parted into four different rulerships, right? He had four friends who he gave the power to when he died, right? And you can go get the information in the last video. But Antiochus, it said, was that wicked root. He was more wicked than all of these people because it said the evils were multiplied when the Greeks took over. Keep reading, brother.
When Antiochus IV usurped the throne in Syria, 175 to 163 BC, he entertained the thought of uniting Alexander's empire. This meant the conquest of Egypt. However, the province that bordered on Egypt was Palestine, which stood in his way. At this time, the Jews would not accept Greek culture. Nevertheless, Antiochus was determined to Hellenize the Jews.
Hellenize means to basically wipe out their nationality, have them Hellenized to thinking they're Greeks, just like they did the so-called African Americans today. We don't even know who we are anymore. We're basically Hellenized in this land, along with, just a side note, along with during the Roman era. That's why Christ had to go back and preach to who they called the Gentiles, but the Gentiles were actually Israelites who had got Hellenized. Right? Keep reading.
The army of Antiochus marched into Palestine to support Melanos, the leader of the pro-Syrian party. As a result, many Jews were killed. Others escaped to the hills and to Egypt. Only those Jews that supported Antiochus' policies remained in Jerusalem.
So those were the coons who remained in Jerusalem, and they supported Antiochus. They supported being in Greek philosophy and leaving their customs. Keep reading.
An edict was promulgated indicting, interdicting the observance of the holidays, the Sabbath, and the circumcision. A
So an
statute.
edict, that's like a forceful law. So he had forceful laws to get us away from our holidays, which is our holy days, the Sabbaths, and circumcising our children because that was a part of our law. That was a part of our heritage. Keep reading.
A statue of Jupiter was erected in the holy temple above the altar. Wow.
So now remember this. It said a statue of Jupiter, right, was in the temple, right? Because we're going to kind of read about that in chapter 2.
To this statue, the people brought the sacrifices of pig meat, the animal which is an abomination to the Jews. Because of their religious persecution, the legitimate high priest Onus III and many other Jews fled into African countries such as Egypt, Ethiopia, and Libya, or Seneca, or Libya. Throughout the last 2,500 years, the main factors that have contributed to the social migration of the Jews were wars, religious persecution, and commerce. All these factors were operating and gave rise to the African Jewish population.
And that's talking about us, right? It says Jewish, but that's talking about us. the actual Jews, right? And it says Jews were, um, it says throughout the last 2,500 years, meaning all the way till now, the main factors that have contributed to the social migration, meaning the Jews forgetting themselves, were wars, religious persecution, meaning if we said that we were Israelites, we would be slaughtered, just like it says in Second Maccabees chapter 6 and verse 6, or is that First Maccabees, brother? You know, I think it's Second Maccabees, but anyway, it's and you'll see that what Antiochus did to us, like as far as Hellenizing us, right, making us forget our religion, religious persecution, and commerce, meaning buying and selling. Have you always caught up in buying and selling the new fashions, the new Jordans, the new latest technology? These are the things our people seek after versus seeking the laws of the Most High or seeking His knowledge. And they understood that the Jews love these type of things, so that's what they would try to always implement in our nation, right? So
That's
now
right.
I'm sharing my screen. Let me get back. Okay. So now we're gonna go to our books and First Maccabees chapter 1 and verse 2. And if you don't have this book, right, if my screen will catch up with me, if you don't have this book, the Apocrypha, hey, you need to get it. It's like $10 on Amazon, right? You can get this book, and it has the missing books in here and all the history that you need, right? Because keep the feast of dedication, that's a commandment that we're supposed to keep.
That's
So
right.
hey, if it's a commandment, hey, we gotta have that thing, man. Right? There's a lot of missing history in here, right? You got the Persians and Medes captivity. You got the Babylonian captivity in the regular, what they call the regular Bible. You got the Roman, but you don't have the Greek captivity. So why in the New Testament do they always say there's neither Jew or Greek? There's neither Jew nor Greek. You see that? It's a lot of history that's missing and it's in the Apocrypha. But once you read this, you'll understand why they say there's neither Jew or Greek. That's why Christ had to go and tell those Jews who were Hellenized, thinking they were Greeks, to repent and keep the commandments and stop following the Greekish customs or the Roman ways, right? So let's get First Maccabees chapter 2.
First Maccabees chapter 2. And it reads, in those days arose Mattathias, the son of John, the son of Simeon, a priest of the sons of Jorid from Jerusalem, and dwelt in Modin. And he had 5 sons, Joni, called Cades, Simon called Thassius, Judas, who was called Maccabeus, Eleazar called Avarin, and Jonathan, whose surname was Appius.
So Judas, right? You're gonna hear that name a lot when we're reading this in the Maccabees because it's actually named after him. So the word Maccabee, now I'm not gonna pull it up because my computer's acting slow, but the word Maccabees actually means hammer. Look up the etymology of Maccabees, right? It means hammer in the Hebrew, the hammer. That's what they call him, right? And you're gonna understand why they called him the hammer as we keep reading. So keep reading, brother.
All right. And when he saw the blasphemies that were committed in Judah and Jerusalem, he said, woe is me. Wherefore was I born to see this misery of my people and of the holy city, and to dwell there, when it was delivered into the hand of the enemy, and the sanctuary into the hand of strangers.
But just like now, it's like woe is me. Like, man, we gotta see the destruction of our people killing each other, our people strung out on drugs, our people in the hoods, the ghettos. Hey, we living in a um a terrible time for our nation right now. Right, keep reading.
Verse 8, her temple is become as a man without glory. Her
Mm.
glorious vessels are carried away into captivity. Her infants are slain in the streets. Her young men with the sword of the enemy.
And that her
What,
is talking about the children of Israel. Keep reading.
what nation have not had a part in her kingdom and gotten all of her spoils? All of her ornaments are taken away. Of a free woman, she is become a bond slave.
So we were a free woman, meaning a free nation, but then now we became a bond slave, right? Because we were supposed to be ruling over the earth, right? Verse 12.
And behold, our sanctuary, even our beauty and our glory is laid waste, and the Gentiles have profaned it.
Just like today, you see our beauty is profane, right? Our men, they don't want to be men no more, right? The women, hey, they don't even want to be women no more. They
Mm.
hate their skin, they hate their hair. It's just the same thing. Keep reading.
To what end, therefore, shall we live any longer? Then Mattathias and his sons rent their clothes and put on sackcloth and mourn very sore.
And they were mad as hell, man. They were mourning, man. They hated seeing their people in that estate. Keep reading.
In the meanwhile, the king's officers, such as compelled the people to revolt, came into the city Modin to make them sacrifice. And when many of Israel came unto them, Mattathias also and his sons came together. Then answered the king's officers and said to Mattathias on this wise, Thou art a ruler and an honorable and great man in this city, and strengthened with sons and brethren. Now,
Right.
therefore, come thou first and fulfill the king's commandment, like as all the heathen have done, yea, and the men of Judah also, and such as remain at Jerusalem, so shall thou and thy house be in number of the king's friends, and thou and thy children shall be honored with silver and gold and many rewards.
Hey, that's just like the people in Hollywood right now. Hey, this the devil talking to them. He trying to literally get them to come away from their commandments that the Lord gave them and go off and sin. Go off and sacrifice unto devils. That's what he's trying to get Mattathias to do. Let's see what Mattathias said.
Then Mattathias answered and spake with a loud voice, Though all the nations that are under the king's dominion obey him and fall away every one from their religion of their fathers and give consent to his commandments, yet will I and my sons and my brethren walk in the covenant of our fathers.
So hold up. Mattathias spake with a loud voice. He spoke loudly because guess what? It was people around him. So he had to let everybody hear that, hey, look, I'm going to follow the commandments of the Lord. I'm not going to go off into idolatry with these other nations, right? I'm going to hold the line. That's what I'm going to do. That's what he said, right? Read.
God forbid that we should forsake the law and the ordinance. We will not hearken to the king's word to go from our religion, either on the right hand or the left.
And we understand that's our heritage. Keep reading.
Now, when he had left speaking these words, there came one of the Jews in the sight of all to sacrifice on the altar, which was at Moton, according to the king's commandment. Which thing, when Mattathias saw, he was inflamed with zeal, and his reins trembled. Neither could he forbear to show his anger according to judgment. Wherefore he ran and slew him upon the altar.
So Mattathias saw this damn coon, right? He stepped back, bold as a lion, in front of all his people, in front of the heathen who could have slayed him. He stepped back and said, to hell with these laws that y'all are trying to do. I'm going to abide by the Most High's laws, right? But you always got that one coon. I'll do it. I'll eat it. They bring pork to work. Oh, I'll eat it. Don't worry about it. You ungrateful, man. Move out the way, man. I got to do it. It was that same guy, right? So with his zeal, hey, Mattathias said, man, to hell with this man, and slew him upon the altar. He got sacrificed upon the altar, right? All right, keep. And remember, we read that it possibly could have been Jupiter's statue that he was sacrificing to, right? And that pretty much explain like Greek mythology. So they set up Greek gods in there. But yeah, let's keep reading in verse 25.
I just want to point out right quick, it
Oh
said
yeah,
that
you got
he
it.
trembled.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? He was so inflamed with zeal and his reins trembled. Neither could he forbear. You know how mad you got to be?
Mm-hmm.
You can't even stand still. You ready to
Right,
bust.
right,
Your head ready to explode. That's how mad his brother was. But
right.
I keep reading. Also, the king's commissioner who compelled men to sacrifice, he killed at that time, and the altar he pulled down. Thus dealt he zealously for the law of God, like as Phineas did unto Zambri, the son of Salom. And Mattathias cried throughout the city with a loud voice, saying, whosoever is zealous of the law and maintaineth the covenant, let him follow me.
Basically, what he just said, hey, if you down for our heritage, if you down for the laws that the Most High gave us, man, hey, follow me, man. We're gonna put in some work today. Keep reading.
So he and his sons fled into the mountains and left all that ever they had in the city.
They left everything they had to keep the laws of God. That's the type of zeal and the type of enthusiasm that we should be striving for in these last days, man. And we'll drop anything to go keep the laws of God.
Hey, let me
Right?
get a precept right quick.
Go ahead, brother.
This Psalm 94 and 16. It says, who will rise up for me against the evildoer? Or who will stand up for me against the workers of iniquity? That's exactly what we just seen right here.
Right.
Exactly what we just seen.
That's right.
But I'm gonna keep reading. Where we at? 29?
Verse.
Yeah.
Yeah, 29.
Then many that sought after justice and judgment went down into the wilderness to dwell there, both they and their children and their wives and their cattle, because afflictions increased sore upon them. So when it was told the king's servant and the host that was at Jerusalem in the city of David that certain men who had broken the king's commandment were gone down into secret places in the wilderness, they pursued after them a great number, and having overtaken them, they camped against them and made war against them on the Sabbath day. And they said unto them, let that which ye have done hitherto suffice. Come forth and do accordingly to the commandment of the king, and ye shall live. But they said, we will not come forth, neither will we do the king's commandment to profane the Sabbath day. So then they gave them the battle with all speed. Howbeit they answered them not, neither cast they a stone at them, nor stopped the places where they lay hid, but said, let us die all in our innocency. Heaven and earth shall testify for us that ye put us to death wrongfully. So they rose up against them in battle on the Sabbath, and they slew them.
So
Go ahead.
now we're gonna understand something tonight. These damn fools sat there and said they see them coming at them with swords, daggers, all kind of with full speed. And they said, we're gonna keep the Sabbath. We're just gonna sit here. Let's see what they should have did. Keep reading that.
Verse 38. So they rose up against them in battle on the Sabbath, and they slew them with their wives and children and their cattle, to the number of 1,000 people. Now when Mattathias and his friends understood hereof, they mourned for them right sore. And one of them said to another, if we all do as the brethren have done, and fight not for our lives and laws against the heathen, they will quickly root us out of the earth. In that time, therefore, they decreed, saying, whosoever shall come to make battle with us on the Sabbath day, we will fight against him. Neither will we die all as our brethren that were murdered in the secret places.
So hey, Mattathias did what he was supposed to do, right? Because he knew the law. Guess what? Let's go to Ecclesiastes chapter 7 and verse 16. Ecclesiastes chapter 7 and verse 16. And it's a reason why Mattathias said, you know what? Hey, we can't let them kill us like that. They're gonna wipe out our whole nation if we don't fight.
That's
right? But they looking at it as the Sabbath day and they supposed to rest. Hey, you got people trying to kill you, man. Hey, didn't the Lord say it's lawful to do good on the Sabbath?
Mm-hmm.
Right? So let's get this real quick. Ecclesiastes chapter 7 and verse 16. Be not righteous over much, neither make thyself over wise. Why shouldest thou destroy thyself? Right? So it says, be not righteous over much. That's being over righteous. If you got somebody trying to slay you on the Sabbath, hey, you got to do what you got to do.
That's
so
right.
Mattathias took the initiative and he said, you know what? We're not going to let them put us to death because they know they really trying to test us for real. They tried to wait on the Sabbath day, to try to put us to death. Right. But let's go back to Maccabees, right? And that's what you call being over righteous right there.
First Maccabees chapter 2, verse 42. Then came there unto him a company of Assyrians, who were mighty men of Israel, even all such as were voluntarily devoted unto the law. Also, all they that fled for persecution joined themselves unto them, and were a stay unto them. So they joined forces and smote sinful men in their anger, and wicked men in their wrath. But the rest fled to the heathen for succor.
Right, for safety. Right. So they slew sinful men in their anger and wicked men in their wrath. Right. Mean, hey, just like if you join hand in hand with the heathen, you're gonna be thrust through.
That's right.
Right. Keep reading.
Then Mattathias and his friends went round about and pulled down the altars. And when children soever they found within the coast of Israel uncircumcised, those they circumcised valiantly.
Hey, you gonna keep these laws.
That's right.
Right. That's what is gonna happen. You're gonna keep these laws. Keep reading.
They pursued also after the proud men, and the work prospered in their hand.
Right.
So they recovered the law out of the hand of the Gentiles and out of the hand of kings. Neither suffered they the sinner to triumph. Now, when the time drew near that Mattathias should die, he said unto his sons, now have pride and rebuke gotten strength in the time of destruction and the wrath of indignation. Now, therefore, my sons, be ye zealous for the law and give your lives for the covenant of your fathers.
So we have to be zealous for this law and give our lives for the covenant of our Father.
That's
Just
right.
like everybody should be praying for that type of spirit that, hey, when all hell break loose, hey, you're gonna be zealous for the law, right? You're gonna be zealous to keep these commandments, regardless of what people say or do, right? Regardless of the wicked inventions they have in their heart. Keep reading.
Verse 51. Call to remembrance what acts our fathers did in their time, so shall you receive great honor and an everlasting name. Was not Abraham found faithful in temptation and was imputed unto him for righteousness?
And brother, hey, as we reading this, just imagine them out there screaming and yelling this, man. Right? They getting everybody pumped up. Hey, was not Abraham found faithful? Right? And they going through the different prophets, man. The
That's right.
different leaders, the different warriors, man. Keep reading.
Verse 53. Joseph, in the time of his distress, kept the commandment and was made Lord of Egypt. Phineas, our father, in being zealous and fervent, obtained the covenant of an everlasting priesthood. Jesus, for fulfilling the word, was made a judge in Israel. Caleb, for bearing witness before the congregation, received the heritage of the land. David, for being merciful, possessed the throne of an everlasting kingdom. Elias, for being zealous and fervent for the law, was taken up into heaven. Ananias, Azarias, and Mishael, by believing, were saved out of the flame. Daniel, for his innocency, was delivered from the mouth of lions. And thus consider ye throughout all the ages that none that put their trust in him shall be overcome. Fear not then the words of a sinful man, for his glory shall be dung and worms.
That's why we said, hey, don't fear. Hold on, let's get that real quick. Fear not them which kill the body. Yeah. Let me get let's see, Matthew chapter 10 and verse 28. Matthew chapter 10 and verse 28, and we left off at what, 66. Yeah, Matthew chapter 10 and verse 28.
All right, this is the book of Matthew, chapter 10, verse 28, and it reads, and fear not them which kill the body, but are not able to kill the soul, but rather fear him which is able to destroy both soul and body in hell.
So the Lord told you, hey, don't fear him which can kill the body. Fear him which can kill the soul and the body, which is the Most High God. That's who we're really supposed to fear, right?
That's right.
Because why would we fear another man that the Most High created when he can control his mind to do anything he want him to do? He can make him scared. He can make him happy, sad. It don't matter. The Lord can handle that thing for you.
That's
Right.
right.
Now let's go back to First Maccabees chapter 2 and verse 63. What was it?
Yeah.
63.
hmm Today he shall be lifted up, and tomorrow he shall not be found, because he is returned into his dust, and his thoughts is come to nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Wherefore, ye, my sons, be valiant, and show yourselves men in the behalf of the law, for by it shall ye obtain glory. And
And that's
behold,
how you show yourself as a man, through the law. That's
that's
how
right.
you be a man, through the law. Because when you think about it, hey, the Most High tell you to contend for the faith. And he tell you to stand stiffly for the words of the Lord. So regardless of what people say, hey, you're not gonna be moved off your platform. You're not gonna be moved and follow different ways and different doctrines and different religions, because you're gonna stand stiffly on your commandments. That's what you call being a man.
Verse 65. And behold, I know that your brother Simon is a man of counsel. Give ear unto him always. He shall be a father unto you. As for Judas Maccabeus, he has been mighty and strong, even from his youth up. Let him be your captain and fight the battle of the people.
Oh, now we get into the hammer, baby. Yeah, we're gonna find out about the hammer now. All right, we're gonna find out why the heathen called him the hammer. Let's keep reading.
Take also unto you all those that observe the law, and avenge ye the wrong of your people. Recompense fully the heathen, and take heed to the commandments of the law. So he blessed him, and was gathered to his fathers, and he died in 146th year, and his sons buried him in the sepulchres of his fathers at Moden, and all Israel made great lamentation for him.
So now Mattathias, who had his sons, he just died. Now he gave he said for Judas Maccabees to be your captain. So he already knew what he was about. Hey, he said, this man, hey, put him as your captain. He gonna make it do what it do. Right. And we all know that's through the spirit of the Lord. But he chose Mattathias, I mean, not Mattathias, but Maccabees to be the captain. Right. Let's read about Maccabees in chapter 3.
Hey, another point on that is, that was his son, so you got to know your kids. You know what I'm saying?
True,
He know who is what. Got to know your kids.
true,
He
true.
know who gonna handle business. He know who got sense. Who know who humble. Who know how to speak. You got to know who you're dealing with. That's part of being a parent as well. You know. But
Right, that's right.
let's go to First Maccabees chapter 3, verse 1. Then his son Judas, called Maccabeus, rose up in his stead, and all his brethren helped him. And so did all they that held with his father, and they fought with cheerfulness the battle of Israel.
They fought with cheerfulness the battle of Israel. Right? Keep reading.
So he gat his people great honor, and put on a breastplate as a giant, and girt his warlike harness about him, and he made battles, protecting the host with his sword. In his axe he was like a lion, and like a lion's whelp roaring for his prey.
Just like when you watch these old medieval time type movies or the old sword fighting movies, when they would kill somebody, they would roar. Ah, right. He was roaring for his prey. So
That's
he would jump up, probably twist around in the air, chop a head off. Ah, come down again. Somebody else, he hit him with a spear, probably save his one of his boys from behind him. Ain't no telling what he was doing out there, man.
right.
Man, keep reading.
Verse 5. For he pursued the wicked, and sought them out, and burnt up those that vexed his people. Wherefore the wicked shrunk for fear of him, and all the workers of iniquity were troubled, because salvation prospered in his hand. He grieved also many kings, and made Jacob glad with his acts, and his memorial is blessed forever. Moreover, he went through the cities of Judah, destroying the ungodly out of them, and turning away the wrath from Israel, so that he was renowned unto the utmost part of the earth, and he received unto him such as were ready to perish. Then Apollonius gathered the Gentiles together, and a great host out of Samaria, to fight against Israel. Which thing when Judas perceived, he went forth to meet him, and so he smote him and slew him, Many also fell down slain, but the rest fled. Wherefore Judas took their spoils, and Apollonius swore also, and therewith he fought all his life long. Now when Saron, a prince of the army of Syria, heard say that Judas had gathered unto him a multitude and company of faithful to go out, and company of the faithful to go out with him to war, he said, I will get me a name and honor in the kingdom, for I will go fight with Judas and them that are with him, who despise the king's commandment. So he made him ready to go up, and there went with him a mighty host of ungodly to help him, and to be avenged of those children of Israel. And when he came near to going up of Beth Horon, Judas went forth to meet him with a small company, who, when they saw the host coming to meet him, they said unto Judas, how shall we be able, being so few, to fight against such a great multitude and so strong, seeing we are ready to faint with fasting all this day? Unto whom Judas answered, it is no hard matter for many to be shut up in the hands of few, and with God of heaven it is all one to deliver with a great multitude of a small company. For the victory of battle standeth not in the multitude of a host, but strength cometh from heaven.
So it says the strength comes from heaven, meaning it comes from the Most High. So why would they be scared to go into battle, right? Because they were fasting or any kind of different matter happened. And the Lord controls all the men's hearts,
That's
right?
right.
Meaning their minds. So Judas understood this, and like that's it. That go again to show Mattathias knew who he was choosing. Right? Keep reading.
Verse 20. They come against us in much pride and iniquity to destroy us, and our wives and our children, and to spoil us. But we fight for our lives and our laws, for the Lord himself will overthrow them before our face. And as for you, be ye not afraid of them. Now that's a captain right there. But now as soon as he had left off speaking, he leapt suddenly upon them, and so Saron and his hosts were overthrown before him. And they pursued them from the going down of Beth Horon into the plain, where were slain about 800 men of them, and the residue fled into the land of the Philistines. Then began the fear of Judas and his brethren, and the exceeding great dread to fall upon the nations round about them. Insomuch as his fame came unto the king, and all nations talked of the battles of Judas.
Hey, I'll give you a break too.
All right.
I'm gonna start reading verse 27. Now, when King Antiochus heard these things, he was full of indignation, meaning he was mad. Wherefore he sent and gathered together all the forces of his realm, even a very strong army. He opened also his treasure and gave his soldiers pay for a year, commanding them to be ready whensoever he should need them. Nevertheless, when he saw that the money of his treasures failed, and that the tributes in the country were small because of decision and plague which he had brought upon the land in taking away the laws which had been of old time. Meaning, but so the Most High, he took away the laws of our people. So the Most High saw that and made his people uh they had plagues and decision. I mean, in the country, it was in utter chaos. It was in an uproar, right? And because he took away our laws, hey, the Lord paid him back for that, man. That's how you know the Lord is always watching. That's how you know he's watching these heathen now.
Oh, praise.
He feared, verse 30, he feared that he should not be able to bear the charge any longer, nor to have such gifts to give so liberally as he did before. For he had abounded above the kings that were before him. Wherefore, being greatly perplexed in his mind, he determined to go into Persia, there to take the tributes of the country and to gather much money. Meaning, hey, the Lord gave him great perplexity in his mind. The Lord did that thing. So he left Lysias and noble men and one of the blood royal to oversee the affairs of the king of the river Euphrates unto the border of Egypt, and to bring up his sons Antiochus until he came again. Moreover, he delivered unto him half of his forces and elephants, and gave him charge of all things that he would have done, as also according to them that dwelt in Judah and Jerusalem, to wit, that he should send an army against them to destroy and root out the strength of Israel and the remnant of Jerusalem, to take away their memorial from that place. So he tried to rip everything from them, just like what they did now. They actually did it, but he tried to rip their whole heritage from them, and that
Mm,
he should take place, and that he should take, and that he should place strangers in all their quarters and divide their land by lot. So the king took half of the forces that remained and departed from Antioch, his royal city, the 147th year, and having passed the river Euphrates, he went through the high countries. Then Lysias chose Ptolemy, the son of Dormius, and Nicanor and Gorgias, mighty men of the king's friend. And with them he sent 40,000 footmen and 7,000 horsemen to go into the land of Judah and to destroy it, as the king commanded. So they went forth with all their power and came and pitched by Emmaus in the plain country. And the merchants of the country, hearing the fame of them, took silver and gold very much, with servants, and came into the camp to buy the children of Israel for slaves. A power also of Syria and of the land of the Philistines joined themselves unto them. Now, when Judas and his brethren saw that the miseries were multiplied, and the forces did encamp themselves in the borders, for they knew how the king had given commandment to destroy the people and utterly abolish them, they said one to another, "Let us restore the dead. Let us store." Let me read that over. Verse 43. They said one to another, "Let us restore the decayed estate of our people, and let us fight for our people and the sanctuary." So they actually had something to fight for. They was fighting for their people and the sanctuary, right? Everything that they worked to build for the Lord, his laws, statutes, commandments they're keeping. Hey, they fought for everything, their heritage, man. Then was the congregation gathered together that they might be ready for battle, and that they might pray and ask mercy and compassion. Now Jerusalem lay void as a wilderness. There was none of her children that went in or out. The sanctuary also was trodden down, and aliens kept the stronghold. The heathen had their habitation in the place, and joy was taken from Jacob, and the pipe with the harp ceased. And that aliens, that's going into foreigners, meaning outsiders, people of other nations. They actually call the aliens, but now they want to call us aliens in this day and age.
mm-hmm.
Verse 46. Wherefore the Israelites assembled themselves together and came to Mizpah over against Jerusalem, for in Mizpah was the place where they prayed aforetime in Israel. Then they fasted that day and put on sackcloth and cast ashes upon their head and ripped them clothes and laid open the book of the law, wherein the heathen had sought to paint the likeness of their images. So now that they got their Bible back, right after these wars they fought, now they open up the book. These heathen, they in there painting images of themselves. They in
Hey,
there
look,
painting. What you got,
look how
bro?
deep that is, man.
You
You've
what?
been trying to fight these people for so long. They've been whooping your ass, for lack of better word. Soon as you open their book, you want to start painting their images, painting yourself in their book. That's
Now
amazing.
that's crazy, man.
And for those who don't know, that's where you get Caesar Borgia or the white image of Christ.
That's correct. That's correct.
I'll take over reading.
Okay, you got it now.
All right, verse 49. They brought also the priest's garments and the first fruits and the tithes, and the Nazarites they stirred up, who had accomplished their days. Then cried with a loud voice toward heaven, saying, what shall we do with these? And whether shall we carry them away? For thy sanctuary is trodden. Things they imagined against us, thou knowest. How shall we be able to stand against them, except thou, O God, be our help? Then sounded they with trumpets and cried with a loud voice. And after this, Judas ordained captains over the people, even captains over thousands, and over hundreds, and over fifties, and over tens. But as such as were building houses and had betrothed wives, and were planting vineyards, or were fearful, those he commanded that they should return every man to his own house according to the law.
So that's how you know he kept the law, because that's actually in the law, where if you were building a house or just got married, right? Or if you were fearful, hey, take your ass back home.
Mm-hmm.
Don't come over here with that, man. Keep reading.
Verse 57. So the camp removed and pitched upon the south side of Emmaus. And Judas said, arm yourselves and be valiant men, and see that ye be in readiness against the morning, that ye may fight with these nations that are assembled together against us to destroy us and our sanctuary. For it is better for us to die in battle than to behold the calamities of our people in our sanctuary. Nevertheless, as the will of God is in heaven, so let him do.
Right. And that, so just what we going into, this is the history of the Maccabees. This is the history that Christ had to know about if he was keeping the feast of dedication, because Christ didn't just do everything like your average African American does. They just do stuff off the whim and not even knowing what it's about. Hey, Christ knew what he was doing. He knew he came down here to keep the commandments of his heavenly Father and to die for the people. So you don't think he would know about the feast of dedication?
Hmm.
You don't think he would know about Mattathias? Right. So hey, this is why we really gotta get that Apocrypha, man. We gotta get these missing books and put them back to our normal read, right? Because this is a part of our law, a part of our heritage.
That's right.
Keep reading, brother.
You gonna read the whole chapter 4?
Mm, let's see what we got. Probably not. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna, for those who are listening, read chapter 4, and it's gonna go into the different battle formations that they had, and then who they basically slayed. But you'll get the history on it. But we're gonna get to where they actually defeated them, and then they declared the feast of dedication. All right. So let's jump to verse 38.
All right. This first Maccabees chapter 4, verse 38. And when they saw the sanctuary desolate, and the altar profaned, and the gates burned up, and the shrubs growing in the courts, as in a forest, or in one of the mountains, yea, the priest's chambers pulled down, they rent their clothes and made great lamentation, and cast ashes upon their heads, and fell down flat to the ground upon their faces, and blew an alarm with the trumpets, and cried toward heaven.
So they blew an alarm with the trumpets and cried toward heaven. Right. Those are the chauffeurs that you see, that we blow on the new moons, the different feast days, right? Because those were commandments that we were supposed to be keeping. Can you read?
That's right. Precept of that would be Numbers 10 and 10. But verse 41, then Judas appointed certain men to fight against those that were in the fortress until he had cleansed the sanctuary. So he chose priests of blameless conversation, such as had pleasure in the law, who cleansed the sanctuary and bare out the defiled stones into an unclean place. And when they had consulted what to do with the altar of burnt offerings, which was profane, they thought it best to pull it down, lest it should be a reproach to them, because the heathen had defiled it. Wherefore they pulled it down and laid up the stones in the mountain of the temple in a convenient place until there should come a prophet to show what should be done with them.
Now, this is how you knew he kept the law, because that prophet he was waiting on, dealing with the stones, he was waiting on the Levite to come deal with that, because that's the type of things that they dealt with, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you going into the ephod and the different stones that they had in the ephod, but that's another story. So let's keep reading.
Verse 47. Then they took whole stones according to the law and built a new altar according to the former, and made up the sanctuary and had and the things that were within the temple and hollowed the courts. They made also new holy vessels, and into the temple they brought the candlestick and the altar of burnt offerings and of incense and the table.
And that candlestick was the menorah. This is not a new thing. This was spoken about in Exodus chapter 25, when the Lord commanded them to make the menorah with the 7 branches, not 8 or 9, with the 7 branches, and it
That's
was
right.
for the temple, right? Keep reading.
Verse 50. And upon the altar they burned incense, and the lamps they were upon the candlesticks they lighted, that they may give light into the temple. Furthermore, they set loaves upon the table and spread out the veils and finished all the works which they had begun to make. Now, on the 25th day of the ninth month, which is called the month Caslu, in the 148th year, they rose up betimes in the morning and offered sacrifice according to the law upon the new altar of burnt offerings which they had made. Look at what time and what day the heathen had profaned it, even in that was it dedicated with songs and citherns and harps and cymbals.
So it said it was dedicated, right? It was pretty much rededicated, but it was dedicated with songs and cithers. Meaning, hey, they was getting down, man. They had music playing, right? People dancing. Keep reading.
Verse 55. Then all the people fell upon their faces, worshiping and praising the God of heaven who had given them good success. And so they kept the dedication of the altar 8 days and offered burnt offerings with gladness and sacrificed the sacrifice of deliverance and praise.
So the feast of dedication is kept for 8 days, right?
That's
It's
right.
kept for 8 days, right? We just got done. Well, we're just getting done celebrating the feast of dedication, right? Keep reading.
They decked also the forefront of the temple with crowns of gold and with shields, and the gates of the chambers they renewed and hanged doors upon them. Thus was there very great gladness among the people, for that the reproach of the heathen was put away. Moreover, Judas and his brethren, and with the whole congregation of Israel, ordained that the days of the dedication of the altar should be kept in their season from year to year by the space of 8 days, from the 25th day of the month Caslu, with mirth and gladness.
With mirth and gladness, meaning, hey, we're supposed to be glad when the feast of dedication come around, man.
That's
That's how
right.
it's supposed to be celebrated, with mirth and gladness. Just like you celebrated the 4th of July, just like you celebrated Christmas, just like you celebrated damn Valentine's Day and every other holiday that you can think about in America. Hey, we supposed to do it 10 times more for the Most High.
That's right. At that
Keep reading.
time also they builded up the Mount Zion with high walls and strong towers round about, lest the Gentiles should come and tread it down, as they had done before. And they set up there a garrison to keep it, and fortified Bethshur to preserve it, that the people might have a defense against Idumea.
Idumea, those are the Greeks, those are the Edomites, those that is Esau, Edom, right? That's who they were trying to keep it up against, because they came and profaned it the first time, man. So it's always the damn Greeks, the Idumeans, the Edomites. They always coming and messing something up, man.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to destroy your heritage, being the damn devil. It say the devil come to kill, steal, and destroy.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, that's exactly what they came to do.
They do all the
But
time.
and that word garrison too, that's going into like what they call today. You have like your Fort Knoxes or different say like America has different military bases set up in different states or
Hmm.
different countries. That's what that garrison was, right? But so I had some more. I was gonna go into what the menorah is it really represents the seven churches and the seven spirits of the Most High, not seven literal spirits, but the number of completion, meaning, and that's in Revelation chapter 1 and verse 20 for the churches, and then Revelation chapter 4 and verse 5 for the seven spirits. You can read Zechariah chapter 4, goes more into depth of Revelation chapter 4 and verse 5. But for the sake of time, I'm not going to get into that. So, with that, I'm Brother Benaiah,
And Brother Ananias,
and we say happy feast of dedication. We always got to keep that thing because Christ kept it, and we always got to give all praise, glory, and honor to the Most High God of Israel through his son Christ. Right? And with that, I say shalom.
shalom.